Once upon a time in the heart of Lagos, there lived a man named Obinna. He was one of the richest men in Nigeria. People said he could buy anything: cars, houses, even islands. His mansion was like a palace, with tall white pillars, a sparkling fountain in front, and guards at every corner. Inside the compound, everything was clean, shiny, and quiet. Too quiet. Obinna loved order. He liked things to be perfect, always in control. He didn't like noise, dirt, or surprises. He especially didn't like strangers coming near his daughter. That Thursday evening, he drove home himself. His driver had taken the day off, and Obinna didn't mind. Sometimes, when he was alone in the car, he liked to think. That evening, he had a lot on his mind. One of his biggest deals was falling apart. A foreign investor had backed out at the last minute, and Obinna had shouted at nearly everyone in his office. As he approached his estate, the heavy black gate opened slowly, and his car rolled in. He looked around, expecting to see the same peaceful garden, the same quiet air, the same silence. But what he saw stopped him cold. Right there, on the clean tiles near the flower bed, sat his 7-year-old daughter, Kamsi. She was cross-legged on the ground, holding a pencil and an old, torn book. Next to her was another girl. This one didn't belong. She wore brown, torn clothes. Her feet were dirty. Her hair looked like it hadn't been combed in weeks. Her face was smudged with dust. Obinna's eyes narrowed. He stepped out of his car slowly. He didn't say a word at first. He just watched. The homeless girl pointed at the paper and said, "4 times 3 is 12. You remember that, right?" Kamsi nodded with a big smile. "Yes, you said the number 4 should walk 3 times. I remember." The girl laughed. "Exactly. That's how you remember multiplication. Make it fun." Obinna's heart pounded in his chest. He couldn't take it anymore. "What is this madness?" he shouted. Both girls jumped. Kamsi looked up. "Daddy." The homeless girl quickly stood up. She held the torn book close to her chest and took a step back. Obinna's voice rose. "Who are you? Who let you into my house? Where are the security men?" He turned to the guards running toward him. Kamsi grabbed his arm. "Daddy, please, don't shout at her." Obinna looked at his daughter in shock. "Don't shout? This stranger is inside our home, playing with you like your street children." "She's not bad," Kamsi said softly. "She teaches me maths. Better than the teacher you paid for." Obinna looked down at the homeless girl again. She didn't speak. She didn't run. She just looked back at him with quiet eyes. There was no fear in her eyes, but something else. Something deeper. Something that shook him for a moment. "Speak." Obinna barked at her. "How did you get in here?" She held her voice tight. "Through the back gate, sir. The guards let me in. I come only when Kamsi is alone." "You what?" Obinna looked around in disbelief. "You sneak into my home? Do you think this is a playground?" "I only come to help her learn. That's all," the girl said gently. "She's very smart, Daddy," Kamsi added quickly. "She teaches me slowly, not like the other teachers who shout at me." Obinna looked at his daughter. Her eyes were big and honest. She wasn't lying. He turned back to the girl. "How old are you?" 10. "What's your name?" The girl hesitated. "My name is Ziora." Obinna stepped closer. "And who are your parents, Ziora?" She looked down. "My mother is gone. She died 2 years ago. I don't know my father." Something inside Obinna's chest moved slightly, but he forced his face to stay hard. He pointed to the guards. "I want her out. Now. And if she ever comes back." "Daddy, no." Kamsi shouted, her voice cracking. "She's my friend." "There are rules, Kamsi." Obinna snapped. "You don't play with strangers. Especially not ones who sneak into our house. She's not a bad person." Obinna's voice dropped. "She is not like us. She belongs out there, not here." Ziora took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to cause trouble. Go, he said coldly. Now. She didn't argue. She turned and walked toward the gate. The guards opened it. She stepped out, still holding the book. Not once did she look back. Kamsi ran into the house, tears rolling down her cheeks. Obinna stood still. His chest was tight. His palms were sweating. He didn't know why, but something about that girl, something about her eyes, it wouldn't leave his mind. Inside the mansion, Obinna walked slowly to his study. He sat on the edge of his leather chair and stared at the wall. He could still hear Ziora's voice in his head. The way she had calmly said she didn't know her father. The way she had explained maths like a real teacher. How could a homeless girl teach so well? Obinna pressed a button on his desk phone. Get me the head of security. Now. The voice on the other end replied, Yes, sir. 5 minutes later, the security chief stood at the door. Obinna didn't look at him. Why did you let that girl into this compound? The man looked nervous. Sir, the girl has been coming for weeks. Always around 5 o'clock. Your daughter waits for her. And you allowed this? She said she was tutoring Kamsi. We thought she was just one of the new staff. Obinna slammed his palm on the desk. You thought? You didn't ask? You didn't check? I'm sorry, sir. I don't want to ever see her here again. Do you understand me? Yes, sir. Leave. The man walked out quickly. Obinna leaned back and closed his eyes. But he didn't feel better. He felt worse. The face of that girl, her eyes, something about her felt familiar. And her name, Ziora. He'd never heard it before, but somehow, it echoed deep inside his memory. He shook the thought away. At dinner, Kamsi didn't eat. She just pushed her food around the plate. Her mother, Amaka, noticed. What's wrong, baby? Don't you like the rice? Kamsi didn't answer. Obinna cleared his throat. She's upset because I sent her friend away. Amaka looked surprised. What friend? A homeless girl. A stranger. Teaching her outside our gate. She's not just a stranger. Kamsi shouted suddenly. She's my teacher and my best friend. Kamsi, her mother warned. But the girl stood up. You didn't even ask why she came. You just shouted at her like she was trash. Obinna looked at his daughter. You don't speak to me like that. I won't speak at all then, Kamsi muttered and ran upstairs. Amaka looked at her husband. Obinna, who was that girl? Obinna rubbed his forehead. I don't know. Just a girl from the street. But she won't come back again. Amaka was quiet. Maybe you should find out who she is. She's no one. Are you sure? Obinna didn't answer. Because truthfully, he wasn't sure. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. He kept seeing her face, her voice, her eyes, and that strange, sharp feeling in his chest wouldn't go away. Like he had seen her somewhere before, or someone like her. And deep down, a part of him was scared to find out the truth. The next morning, the mansion was quiet. Too quiet. Normally, little Kamsi would be running around the house in her pink slippers, singing one of her school songs or asking the chef for pancakes. But that morning, she didn't even come down for breakfast. Obinna sat at the long dining table, dressed in a fresh suit. The golden chandelier above him sparkled like always, and the white plates were neatly arranged beside the silver cutlery. But none of that mattered to him right now. He looked at the untouched chair across from him. Kamsi's chair. She's still upstairs, Amaka said softly as she poured tea into her cup. Obinna didn't respond. He slowly stirred his tea without drinking it. You upset her last night, Amaka added, trying not to sound like she was blaming him. She'll get over it, Obinna muttered. She's a child, Obinna, Amaka replied. Her heart is soft. I was protecting her, he said, his voice a little sharper now. That girl had no right to be here. This is not a public school or a community center. It's our home. Amaka looked up. But did you see how much Kamsi loved learning from her? Obinna dropped his spoon on the saucer with a loud clang. I don't care if she taught her how to build rockets. That girl was a stranger. She sneaked into this house through the back gate. But she didn't steal anything. She didn't harm anyone, Amaka pointed out. Obinna stood up from the table. She's not coming back. End of story. He walked out, grabbed his car keys, and headed for the garage. But as Obinna drove through the city that morning, his thoughts weren't on the business meeting ahead. They were on that girl again, Ziora. The way she had looked at him. Calm, respectful, but not afraid. And her voice, it didn't sound like a child who belonged on the streets. It sounded educated, careful, clear. He tried to push the thought out of his mind. He tried to think about numbers, contracts, and profit margins. But his brain kept going back to that girl with dusty cheeks and quiet eyes. At the office, things were tense. The new investors were pulling out of the real estate deal in Abuja, and the team needed Obinna to calm them down. But he was distracted. His secretary noticed. Sir, are you feeling all right? Obinna blinked. Yes, I'm fine. But he wasn't. He cancelled his meetings for the day and went back home early. When he entered the compound, the first thing he did was look toward the garden. No one was there. Just silence. Wind. A few birds flying past the mango tree. He went inside, expecting to find Kamsi watching cartoons or playing with her toys. But the living room was empty. He walked to the backyard quietly. That's when he saw her. There she was again. The same girl. Sitting on the floor with Kamsi. Back in his house. Again. Obinna's heart jumped in his chest. He stood frozen, watching from behind the curtain inside the living room. She was really back. The guards had let her in again. He could hear her voice faintly from the distance. She was teaching Kamsi how to spell words now. They were using sticks to write in the sand beside the small flower garden. Important starts with an I, Ziora said, drawing the letter slowly. C, not E. Kamsi laughed. I always forget. You won't anymore. Just remember, I am important. Obinna frowned. That voice again. So patient. So soft. So full of care. He didn't go out to shout this time. He didn't stop them. He stood there for almost 15 minutes, just watching. And the strangest thing happened. He smiled. Only for a second. But it was there. Later that evening, after dinner, Obinna called his security chief again. The same man from yesterday. The guard stood stiffly by the door. Sir. You let her in again, Obinna said, voice low and calm this time. Yes, sir. Even after I said not to. The guard cleared his throat. She begged. She said Kamsi needed help with her homework. She said it would be quick. Obinna leaned forward in his chair. Do you understand how dangerous this is? She's just a girl, sir. That's what makes it worse, Obinna snapped. You don't know who sent her. What if she's being used to spy on us? What if she's part of a scam? She has never done anything wrong. Obinna paused. What do you know about her? Only that she comes in peace. She never asks for money. She doesn't eat. She only brings her notebook and leaves quietly. Obinna drummed his fingers on the armrest. Find out where she goes when she leaves here. Sir. Follow her. Discreetly. I want to know everything about her. Where she lives. Who she talks to. What she does. The guard nodded. Yes, sir. The next afternoon, Obinna stayed home on purpose. He didn't tell anyone, not even Amaka. He sat upstairs, watching from the window with binoculars. His eyes stayed on the garden. Right on time, the girl returned. Ziora. She was wearing the same brown top. Her hair was in rough cornrows, and she carried a plastic bag. Obinna watched her walk in through the back gate again. The guards waved at her like she was a friend. He tightened his jaw. She walked up to Kamsi, who was already waiting with a chalkboard. They sat side by side on the ground and started writing. Obinna watched closely. Her movements were calm and respectful. She never looked around the house or tried to steal a glance inside. She didn't ask for food or water. She came. She taught. She smiled. She left. Just like that. That night, Obinna sat in bed, holding a glass of water. Amaka walked in wearing her nightgown. "You're acting strange," she said. He looked up. "What do you mean? You barely spoke all day. You've been walking around like your head is not here." Obinna didn't answer. "You're still thinking about her, aren't you?" Amaka asked. He said nothing. "You know, maybe it's not a bad thing." Obinna raised his brow. "What's not a bad thing?" "This girl, Ziora. Maybe she's meant to be in Kamsa's life." "I don't believe in meant to be," Obinna replied coldly. "This isn't a fairy tale. But there's something about her, Obinna. I felt it too. She's not an ordinary street girl." "She's not supposed to be here," he said firmly. "This is our home, not a charity ground." Amaka walked over to him slowly. "You're scared, aren't you?" He looked up at her, confused. "Scared of what?" "That she reminds you of something. Or someone." Obinna's face changed. His hand gripped the glass a little tighter. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said quietly. "Yes, you do," Amaka replied softly. "And one day, you'll have to face it." She turned off the lamp and slipped into bed. Obinna sat there in the dark, his heart beating louder than before. The next morning, Kamsi came to him with a bright smile. She carried the chalkboard and some sweets in her pocket. "Daddy, can I invite Ziora for lunch today?" she asked. Obinna looked at her. "Lunch?" "Yes, please. Just one meal. She never eats. She said she hasn't had jollof rice in months." Obinna rubbed his forehead. "Please, Daddy. I'll think about it." "Promise." "I said I'll think about it." Kamsi hugged him. "Thank you, Daddy." He didn't promise anything. That evening, when Ziora returned again, Obinna was already watching from inside. He stood behind the curtain, just like before. This time, the guard was doing what he was told. As soon as Ziora entered, he quietly followed her from a distance. She didn't know he was there. Obinna had told the guard to follow her all the way home, to her hiding place, to her shelter, wherever she slept at night. Obinna needed answers. He needed the full truth. Because the more he saw her, the more he heard her voice, the more confused he became. She was not like the others on the street. She was different, and Obinna's heart, cold as it had always been, was starting to remember something it had long tried to forget. The evening air was soft and quiet as the sun began to hide behind the tall buildings of Lagos. The streetlights were just beginning to flicker on, and children were slowly leaving the playgrounds. The day was ending, but something important was just about to begin. Obinna stood inside his home office, staring at the big window. His arms were crossed over his chest. He had told his head of security, Victor, to follow the girl today. Quietly, carefully. He didn't want her to know she was being watched. The same question kept spinning in his mind like a wheel. Who is this girl? Where did she come from? Why does she feel so familiar? His chest was heavy. He was no longer angry. He was something else now. Confused, nervous, and deep down, scared. Victor was a strong man, tall and serious. He had worked with Obinna for years. He was loyal and good at his job. He had followed dangerous men before, scammers, kidnappers, even people trying to steal from Obinna's company. But this time, he was following a little girl. A 10-year-old with torn slippers and a quiet voice. Still, a job was a job. Ziora had left the mansion just after sunset. As usual, she didn't ask for anything. She didn't linger. She simply packed her small book and walked out through the back gate. The guards nodded at her like they always did. Victor followed her on foot, wearing a black shirt and cap to blend into the shadows. He kept a safe distance, careful not to make any sound. Ziora walked with slow steps, not like someone in a hurry. She passed a row of kiosks, crossed a small footbridge, and headed into a part of the city that Victor recognized. An abandoned area near the old market that had burned down 2 years ago. There were broken walls, scattered debris, and rusty iron rods sticking out of the ground. No one lived there officially. It was the kind of place people avoided. But Ziora walked in like it was her home. Victor slowed down. She turned into a narrow path behind an old fence. Then she disappeared behind a tall wall. Victor followed, quietly, step by step. And there, in the middle of rubble and silence, he saw it. A little corner, built from scraps. Wooden planks, rusty roofing sheets, a nylon curtain covering the front. It wasn't a real house. It was barely even a shed. But that was where she lived. Ziora pushed aside the curtain and stepped in. Victor stood hidden behind a cracked wall, peeking carefully. After a few minutes, he crept closer. He didn't want to scare her. He just needed to see more, to understand. Then, the wind blew. The curtain lifted slightly, and Victor saw something that made his eyes widen. Inside the shed, Ziora was sitting on the ground, with a small candle burning beside her. In her hands, she held a picture frame. It was old and dirty, but the glass had not broken. Victor squinted. The picture was of a woman with the same eyes as Ziora, the same lips, the same calm expression. She looked familiar, very familiar. Victor carefully brought out his phone and took a quiet photo of the picture framed through the gap in the curtain. Then he turned and walked away, heart beating fast. He didn't want to believe what he had just seen. Back at the mansion, Obinna sat on the edge of the sofa, legs tapping the floor. He kept checking the clock. Each minute felt like 10. Finally, Victor walked in. He looked serious, even more than usual. "You followed her?" Obinna asked quickly. "Yes, sir." "Where does she live?" Victor hesitated. Obinna stood up. "Victor, she lives behind the burnt market. There's an abandoned area there. She stays in a shed made of wood and nylon. Nothing else is around." Obinna frowned. "She sleeps outside." "Yes, sir." Silence filled the room. "And?" Obinna asked. "Did you see anything else?" Victor reached into his pocket and brought out his phone. "Yes, sir. I took this." He handed the phone to Obinna. Obinna looked at the screen. His hands began to shake. His breath stopped for a second. He dropped into the chair like his knees had given way. The woman in the picture, it wasn't just familiar. It was her. Ada. His Ada. The girl he once loved. The girl he left behind. Obinna couldn't speak. He stared at the phone like it had slapped him. Victor stood quietly, unsure of what was going on. "Sir?" he asked. Obinna slowly lifted his eyes. They were red now. "Where exactly did you say she lives?" Victor told him. Obinna nodded slowly. "You can go." "Are you okay, sir?" "Just go." Victor left the room. Obinna sat there, gripping the phone with both hands. The memory hit him like thunder. It was over 10 years ago. Obinna had just finished university. He was young, full of big dreams, and hungry for success. That was when he met Ada. She was gentle, smart, and full of life. She wanted to be a teacher. They loved each other deeply. At least, that's what it felt like at the time. But when Obinna got a chance to travel abroad and build a new life, everything changed. He told Ada he would return. He promised to call. But he never did. He got caught up in work, in money, in the chase for success. Her messages became fewer. Eventually, he blocked her out completely. He told himself she'd be fine. But she wasn't. Now, staring at the picture of her in the hands of a homeless child, Obinna felt something crack inside him. What if? No, it couldn't be. But what if it was true? What if that girl was his daughter? He stood up, walked to the window, and stared out into the dark night. Everything he had built, his mansion, his cars, his bank accounts, felt useless in that moment. A little girl was sleeping in a broken shelter, holding on to the picture of a woman he once loved. And that girl might be his. Obinna placed the phone on the table. He couldn't think straight. His mind was racing. He needed answers. Real answers. But there was only one way to get them. He had to ask her. The next morning, Obinna didn't go to work. He waited. He waited for Ziora to return to his compound. He told the guards not to stop her. When she arrived, just like always, she smiled at Kamsi and pulled out her book. But before they could begin the lesson, Obinna stepped outside. Kamsi stood up. "Daddy." Obinna looked at Ziora. His eyes were soft now. Not angry. Not sharp. Just full of something heavy. "Can I talk to you?" he asked gently. Ziora looked surprised. Kamsi looked worried. Did she do something wrong again? "No, Kamsi," Obinna said. "Just give us a minute." The little girl nodded and walked back inside. Obinna sat on the garden bench and motioned for Ziora to sit. She came slowly. He took a deep breath. "What's your mother's name?" he asked. Ziora looked at him with curious eyes. "Ada." Her name was Ada. Obinna's chest tightened. Where was she from? Inyugu. What happened to her? She was sick. She died 2 years ago. Obinna looked down at his hands. "Did she ever talk about your father?" Ziora nodded. "She said he left when I was still in her stomach." "Did she tell you his name?" She looked down. "No. She only said he promised to come back. But he never did." Obinna felt like the world was spinning around him. He wanted to scream, to cry, to hide. But he did none of those. He just looked at her. Really looked at her. Same eyes. Same cheeks. Same calm voice. There was no more doubt. She was his. Obinna sat on the garden bench beside the girl who might be his daughter, but his mind was no longer in the garden. He was drifting, far, far away, from the sound of birds, from the warm morning sun, from the quiet rustle of leaves. His body was in Lagos, but his memory had taken him back 10 years. Back to Inyugu. Back to her. He had just finished school then. Fresh degree. Full of fire. Everyone said he was going to be somebody. Obinna didn't waste time dreaming small. He wanted money, cars, a big name. But before all that, there was Ada. She worked at a little bookshop not far from the student lodge. The first time he saw her, she was arranging novels in neat rows. She wore a plain blue dress. Her hair was packed in a simple bun. She didn't even see him at first. He just stood at the entrance, staring. "Excuse me," she said without looking up. "Do you want something?" He stepped closer, still smiling. "Yes. Your number." She looked up, surprised, then rolled her eyes. "You think you're the first one to say that today?" "I hope I'm the last," Obinna replied. She laughed. It was small, quiet, but beautiful. That laugh stayed with him for weeks. Soon, he became a regular, buying books he didn't read, asking silly questions just to hear her talk, bringing her snacks, walking her home. Before long, they were a pair. Everyone in the area knew Obinna and Ada were in love. They talked about the future all the time. "I want to open a school," Ada said one evening as they sat on a bench under a mango tree. "For children who can't afford education." Obinna smiled. "And I want to build towers in every city. Real estate. Oil. Maybe even my own airline." She laughed again. "You like big things." He reached for her hand. "And you're the biggest thing in my world." It was cheesy, but she smiled anyway. Then one day, things changed. Obinna got an offer. A chance to travel abroad with a foreign investor who had visited their school for a seminar. The man liked Obinna's bold ideas. He said he could sponsor him, business classes, work opportunities, a better life. Obinna told Ada immediately. She tried to smile, but her lips trembled. "That's great." He saw the fear in her eyes. "I'll come back," he promised. "We'll be fine." "You sure?" she asked. "You won't forget me?" "Never," he said, holding her close. "I'll call every day. I'll send letters. I'll come back and marry you." She nodded slowly. "Okay." But deep inside, she didn't look convinced. And just like that, he left. The plane took him away, and life moved faster. He got busy. New city, New faces. New pressure. He forgot to call some days. Then some weeks. Then some months. Letters from Ada came, but he read them with half a heart. She talked about how much she missed him, how hard life was, how she was feeling weak. Then one day, a letter arrived. It was short, only a few lines. Obinna, I am with child. I didn't know how to say it. Please write back. I'm scared. Please don't leave me. Please. He read it twice, then folded it, then left it on the desk. He didn't write back. Something inside him told him it would ruin everything. A child? Now, when he was just starting to rise. He pushed the thought away. More letters came. More begging. Then silence. After a while, he told himself she had moved on. He blocked it from his heart. Years passed. He became rich, powerful, married Amaka, built everything he wanted. But sometimes, late at night, her voice would return. The way she smiled, the way she whispered, "Don't forget me." He did. Until now. Sir. Obinna blinked. Ziora was still beside him. Her voice brought him back to the present. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. He looked at her. Really looked. "Your mother, what was she like?" he asked gently. "She was kind," Ziora said. "She taught me things. Even when we had no money. She was always tired, but she tried to smile." Obinna swallowed hard. Did she ever talk about her dreams? "She wanted to open a school," Ziora said. "She told me that a lot. She said poor children deserve to dream too." Obinna felt his chest tighten. Ziora looked down. But she got sick, and there was no money for hospital. She just kept getting weaker. One day, she closed her eyes and didn't wake up. A tear dropped down her cheek. She quickly wiped it. Obinna reached into his pocket and handed her a clean white handkerchief. She took it slowly. "Thank you." He cleared his throat. "Do you know when you were born?" She nodded. "April. 10 years ago." Obinna did the math in his head. It fit. Everything fit. This girl was his child. His blood. His guilt. His shame. He stood up, unable to sit anymore. He felt like his chest would explode. "I need to go," he said quietly. Ziora stood too. "Did I say something wrong?" "No," he said quickly. "You didn't. You've done nothing wrong." He looked at her one last time before walking into the house. Inside, he went straight to his bedroom, locked the door, dropped to his knees, and cried. For the first time in years, he cried like a child. He covered his face and wept. He wept for Ada. He wept for the years he lost. He wept for the pain he caused. He wept because the truth was too much to carry. A billionaire. A father. A coward. An hour later, Amaka knocked on the door. "Obinna." No answer. She tried the knob. It was locked. "Please open the door." He didn't move. "Talk to me," she begged. "You're scaring me." Slowly, he stood up, wiped his eyes, and opened the door. Amaka stepped in and gasped when she saw his face. His eyes were red. His shirt was wet. "What happened?" she asked. Obinna sat on the edge of the bed and looked at her. "I found out who she is," he said. "Who?" "Ziora." Amaka blinked. "You know her family?" Obinna nodded slowly. "She is my family." "What do you mean?" "She's my daughter," he whispered. "My daughter with Ada." Amaka froze. "Ada?" He nodded again. Amaka covered her mouth with her hand. "You told me she was just a friend from the past." "She was more than that," he said. "She was everything before I left." Silence. Heavy. Painful. Amaka sat down beside him. "She died?" she asked. "Yes," he said. 2 years ago. Left Ziora alone. She's been on the streets since then." Amaka looked down. "Oh my God." "I didn't reply her letters. I ignored her calls. I didn't believe she was really pregnant. I was scared. And now? Now the child I left behind is the one teaching my daughter how to count," he said. while I sit in this big house acting like I'm in control. Amaka didn't speak for a long time. Then she finally said, "What are you going to do?" Obinna looked up, eyes heavy. "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I have to start by saying sorry." The sun had just begun to rise the next morning, but Obinna was already awake. He had not slept at all. His eyes were red. His face looked older. He sat quietly on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor. The air in the room felt heavy. Amaka lay beside him, silent too. Neither of them had spoken much since the truth came out the night before. There were no more arguments, no shouting, just silence. Obinna placed both hands on his knees and sighed. "I don't know how to face her," he whispered. Amaka opened her eyes slowly. "You have to. She doesn't know I'm her father. She just thinks I'm some angry rich man." "Then tell her the truth," Amaka said, "before it's too late." Obinna didn't move. His voice was soft. "I don't know where to start." Later that morning, Kamsi ran into the living room with excitement. "Daddy! Daddy! She's here!" Obinna looked up from the couch. "Who?" "Ziora. She's back. She brought more books. She said she's teaching me how to spell bigger words today." Obinna stood slowly. His heart began to pound. "Daddy!" Kamsi looked at him. "Can she eat lunch with us today, please?" Obinna nodded. "She can." Kamsi clapped. "Yay! She'll stay after the lesson," he said. "I want to talk to her." From the window, Obinna watched as Ziora and Kamsi sat under the mango tree again. Ziora had drawn a big circle on the sand. She was using small stones to explain how vowels and consonants worked. Obinna didn't interrupt. He just stood there and listened. Every word from her mouth reminded him of Ada. The way she explained, the patience in her tone, the calm strength in her voice. He couldn't wait any longer. He walked outside slowly. Ziora looked up and saw him. She stood quickly. Kamsi smiled. "Daddy, come and see. We're learning spellings with stones." Obinna nodded. "You're doing well, my dear. Can I talk to your friend for a moment?" Kamsi looked confused. "Again?" "Just for a short time." Ziora stood up and followed Obinna to the other side of the garden. They sat on a small bench beside the fence. Obinna looked straight ahead, trying to find the words. "Ziora," he said slowly, "I want to ask you something important." She looked at him, waiting. "Do you remember ever seeing a picture of your father?" She shook her head. "No, sir. My mother didn't have any photo of him." "Did she ever say his name?" "No, nothing at all. She used to say he left to chase a big life. She never blamed him, though. She said maybe he was scared." Obinna's heart broke again. Ziora smiled a little. She always said, "One day, he might come back. And if he doesn't, you'll still be strong on your own." Obinna nodded slowly. "What is it, sir?" Ziora asked. "Why are you asking all this?" Obinna sighed. "Because I think I might be that man." Her smile disappeared. "What?" "I knew your mother a long time ago," he said. "We were very close before I left for abroad. She told me she was pregnant. But I didn't reply. I was scared. I thought I could ignore it and move on with my life." Ziora looked away, her eyes filling with tears. "I didn't know what happened after that," he continued. "I thought maybe she moved on. Maybe it wasn't true. But now, seeing you, everything she said in those letters is coming back." Ziora stood up slowly. Her voice shook. "You think you're my father?" Obinna nodded. "Yes." She looked down at the ground. "Why now? Why are you saying this now?" "I didn't know you were still out there," he said, "until I saw you teaching my daughter." Ziora took a deep breath. "So all these weeks, you've been watching me, but you didn't say anything." "I was scared again," he admitted. "But I can't run anymore." Ziora folded her arms. "What do you want from me?" Obinna shook his head. "Nothing. I just want the truth. And if you'll let me, I want to do a DNA test. Ziora didn't speak. She looked like she had been hit by a heavy wave. You don't have to say yes right now, Obinna added. But if it's true, if I really am your father, I want to fix what I broke. Ziora finally nodded. Okay. 2 days later, Obinna arranged for a private test at a hospital in Ikoyi. He didn't tell anyone except Amaka. He sent a car to pick Ziora. She came quietly, holding her plastic bag and wearing her same old slippers. She looked nervous but calm. They took the samples. Blood. Cheek swabs. The doctor said the results would take a few days. Ziora didn't speak much on the drive back. Obinna offered her food, but she refused. He understood. When they got back to the mansion, Kamsi ran out to hug her. Where did you go? She asked. I had to help your dad with something, Ziora replied with a weak smile. Don't go again. Please, Kamsi said. I miss you when you're not here. Ziora knelt and hugged her tightly. I'll stay. Obinna watched the two girls and felt a tightness in his chest again. He had been living in a big house with high walls and expensive things. But this girl, this child, was carrying a heart full of pain and strength. And maybe, blood of his blood. At night, Obinna sat on the bed again. Amaka stood by the window, arms folded. How did it go? She asked. She agreed to the test. And how do you feel? Scared, he said. Because you think it might be true. Because I know it is. Amaka turned slowly. You don't need a test to believe it. No, he said. I see it in her eyes. I hear it in her voice. I feel it in my soul. Amaka walked closer. And what happens if the result says yes? Obinna looked up. Then I take full responsibility. And what happens to us? She asked quietly. Obinna looked down. I don't know. Amaka took a deep breath. I'm not angry because you had a past. I'm angry because you never told me the truth. You let her suffer while we had more than enough. I know, he said. And I'm sorry. I'm not asking you to erase her, Amaka said. I'm asking you to be honest from now on. No more secrets. Obinna nodded. I promise. 2 days passed. Then 3. On the 4th day, the call came. The doctor asked Obinna to come in. Alone. He dressed in silence and drove himself. When he entered the office, the doctor stood up. The envelope sat on the table. Obinna picked it up with shaky hands. He opened it slowly. Then read. He didn't need to read twice. 99.98% match. Obinna closed his eyes. She was his daughter. There was no doubt anymore. Tears filled his eyes. But he didn't let them fall. Not yet. He had one more thing to do. When he got home, he asked to speak with Ziora privately. She was in the guest room now. They had given her a clean bed and a new set of clothes, but she still kept her old bag beside her, like a reminder of the life she had lived before. Obinna sat on the edge of the bed. He handed her the paper. She read it slowly, then looked up. So, it's true. Yes, Obinna said. You're my daughter. Ziora didn't cry. She just sat there, holding the paper tightly. I don't know what to feel, she whispered. You can feel anything, Obinna said. Anger, pain, joy. I won't judge you. Ziora finally looked at him. Why didn't you come back for us? I was young and foolish, Obinna said. I wanted success so badly that I left everything behind, including you. Ziora nodded. My mother cried a lot, but she never hated you. Obinna's throat tightened. She was a better person than I'll ever be. Silence filled the room again. Obinna took a breath. Ziora, I want to make things right. I want you to live here. Go to school. Be with your sister. Be part of this family. Ziora looked at him carefully. And your wife? She knows everything now, he said. And she wants what's best for you too. Ziora folded the paper and placed it in her bag. I'll think about it. That's okay, Obinna said softly. Take your time. He stood up and walked to the door. Before leaving, he turned back. "One more thing," he said. "Whether you live here or not, you'll never be alone again." Then he walked out. The evening breeze moved gently through the curtains of the mansion. But inside, the house was quiet and tense. Obinna sat in his home office, holding the DNA result again. He had read it 5 times already. The words were clear. No mistake. Ziora was his daughter. His daughter had been living on the streets, hungry and alone, while he lived like a king in a mansion. He felt ashamed. His heart was heavy. He had been thinking all day about how to tell his family. He knew it was time, but saying it out loud still scared him. He looked up when the door opened. Amaka stepped in, holding a tray with tea. She placed it gently on the table in front of him. "You didn't eat lunch," she said softly. Obinna shook his head. "I couldn't. My chest is too tight." "Is that the result?" she asked, sitting across from him. Obinna nodded. "Yes." Amaka waited. Obinna looked her in the eyes. "She's mine." Amaka took a slow breath and nodded. "I knew it. Even before the test, I could feel it." Obinna leaned back in his chair. "I failed her, Amaka. I failed both of them. Ada died thinking I didn't care. Ziora grew up without a father because I chose money over love." Amaka reached across the table and touched his hand. "You didn't know she survived. You didn't know Ada had the baby." "I knew she was pregnant," he whispered. "I just ignored it." Amaka was quiet. "I don't deserve forgiveness," Obinna said. "But I want to fix it. I want to do something good. For once." "She's just a child," Amaka said. "She needs love more than anything else." Obinna nodded. "But what about Kamsi? How do we explain this to her?" Amaka sighed. "That's the hard part." Later that night, Obinna knocked gently on Kamsi's bedroom door. "Come in," she said. He walked in and saw her sitting on the bed, brushing her doll's hair. "Hi, Daddy." "Hi, baby," he said. He sat at the edge of her bed. "Can we talk?" Kamsi looked up. "Is it about Ziora?" Obinna smiled faintly. "Yes. You really like her, don't you?" Kamsi nodded. "She's my best friend. She's smart and kind. I wish she could live here with us." Obinna looked at her gently. "What if I told you she's more than just a friend?" Kamsi tilted her head. "More." Obinna took her hand. "Ziora is your sister." Kamsi blinked. "My sister?" "Yes," he said. "A long time ago, before I met your mum, I knew someone named Ada. She was Ziora's mother." Kamsi's mouth opened slightly. "But why didn't you tell me?" "I didn't know," Obinna said. "I left her before she gave birth. I didn't stay in touch. I made a big mistake. I didn't know Ziora even existed until recently." Kamsi was quiet. She looked down at her doll. Obinna gave her time. Finally, she looked up. "So, we're the same?" Obinna nodded. "Yes. You're both my daughters. That means you're sisters." "Why was she living on the street?" Kamsi asked. "Because life was hard for her and her mum," he said. "And I wasn't there to help." Kamsi looked at him. "Can she stay with us forever?" Obinna's heart swelled. "If she wants to, yes." "Then I'm happy," Kamsi said with a smile. Obinna pulled her close and hugged her tight. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." The next day, Obinna asked Ziora to sit with him in the living room. Amaka and Kamsi were there too. Ziora looked unsure as she sat on the couch. Obinna cleared his throat. "We've all been through a lot the past few days. But I want us to be a family. That starts with honesty." Ziora nodded, eyes focused on her lap. "Kamsi knows now," Obinna said. "She knows who you are, and she's very happy about it." Kamsi jumped up. "You're my big sister." Ziora looked up, surprised. "Really?" "Yes." Kamsi ran over and hugged her. "I always wanted a sister, and I prayed for one too." Ziora slowly hugged her back. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Obinna's voice cracked a little. You don't have to go back to the street, Ziora. Not ever again. Ziora looked at him. Are you sure? Yes, he said. You have a home here now. You have a family. Amaka added, you can go to school with Kamsi. Eat with us. Sleep in your own bed. This is your home too. Ziora nodded slowly. It feels like a dream. It's real, Obinna said. And I'll never leave you again. Over the next few days, things began to change. The guest room was turned into Ziora's room. Amaka took her shopping and bought new clothes, shoes, and books. Kamsi showed her how to use the remote to watch cartoons, and they giggled together late into the night. But Obinna still felt nervous. He knew this was just the beginning. One evening, as he walked past Ziora's room, he heard her voice. She was praying. He stopped and listened quietly. God, thank you for this family. Thank you for Kamsi and Auntie Amaka. And thank you for my dad, even if it took him long to find me. Obinna leaned against the wall. He wiped his eyes again. The next morning, Amaka entered the kitchen and found Obinna cooking eggs. She raised her eyebrows. You're cooking? He smiled, trying to do something useful. Amaka laughed. Well, this is a surprise. He turned and faced her. I want to do more. I want to be present. Not just provide things. I want to show them I care. Amaka stepped closer. You're doing that already. Amaka, he said seriously, I'll never be able to thank you enough. For standing by me. For accepting Ziora. She's a child, Amaka said. She didn't ask for any of this. And she deserves love. Obinna nodded. I don't deserve you. Amaka smiled. No, you don't. But you're lucky I love you anyway. They laughed quietly. That night, the family sat together in the living room for the first time. Obinna sat on the couch with Ziora on his left and Kamsi on his right. Amaka brought popcorn, and they all watched a movie together. At one point, Kamsi rested her head on Obinna's shoulder. Ziora looked at him carefully, then leaned her head on his other shoulder. Obinna stayed still, afraid to move. His chest was full of emotion. 2 daughters, both resting on him. And for the first time in a very long time, he felt like a father. A real one. For the first time in weeks, laughter filled the mansion. Ziora was starting to smile more. Kamsi was always beside her, like they had been born as twins. They shared clothes, books, and stories. They even whispered secrets in the dark, giggling late into the night. Amaka watched them from the doorway sometimes. She would smile, but it wasn't always a full smile. It was soft, tight, quiet. She had welcomed Ziora. She had shown love. She had even helped clean her up and pick her new school bag. But deep inside, something small and painful was growing. She didn't want it. She tried to push it away, but it was there. One afternoon, Amaka sat alone in her bedroom, folding laundry. Kamsi's pink dresses, Ziora's new jeans, Obinna's shirts. She picked up a white shirt, the one Obinna wore the day he confessed everything. Her hand stopped moving. Her eyes stared at the fabric. And suddenly, a tear dropped onto the cloth. She didn't even feel it coming. Then another, and another. She dropped the shirt and covered her mouth, but the sob escaped anyway. It had been building inside her since the DNA result. Since the night she agreed to let Ziora stay. Since she saw her husband holding the child of another woman. She wasn't angry at Ziora. She wasn't angry at Ada either. She was angry at the man who had broken a promise. A promise to her. That evening, Obinna entered the bedroom and found her sitting on the edge of the bed, staring at nothing. He paused at the door. Amaka? She didn't answer. He walked in slowly and sat beside her. What's wrong? She wiped her face. Nothing. He looked at her gently. Please don't say that. I know you. She stayed quiet. You've been quiet since the movie night. I'm fine, she said again. You're not. Silence. Obinna sighed. Is it about Ziora? Amaka stood up. No. It's about you. He looked up. You hid her from me, Obinna. You hid the letters. The truth. Everything. I didn't know she was alive. That's not the point. Amaka snapped. You never told me about Ada. You made me believe she was just someone from school. You never said you left a girl behind who was carrying your child. Obinna stood too. I was ashamed. You should be. Amaka's voice cracked. She died alone, Obinna. Alone. And her child was begging on the street while you were flying first class. Obinna's mouth opened, but no words came. Amaka shook her head. I stood by you. Through everything. I gave you my heart. My youth. My life. And now I have to watch my husband cry for another woman's child. She's not just another woman's child, Obinna said, his voice low. She's mine. And what about me? Amaka asked. Where do I fit into this new family? Obinna stepped closer. You are my wife. I feel like a stranger in my own home, she whispered. Obinna reached for her hand. Please, don't say that. Amaka pulled away. I need space. The next day, Amaka didn't come down for breakfast. Kamsi noticed first. Where's Mummy? She asked. Obinna forced a smile. She's just resting. Ziora lowered her spoon. Did I do something wrong? No, Obinna said quickly. This is not your fault. Ziora nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed on her food. After breakfast, Obinna climbed the stairs quietly and knocked on the bedroom door. No answer. He knocked again. Amaka, please. The door opened slowly. She stood there, eyes puffy. She had clearly been crying again. Can we talk? He asked. She stepped aside. He walked in. I don't want to fight, he said. Then stop making me feel like I don't belong here anymore. Obinna sat on the bed. That's not true. It is, Amaka said. Every time I walk into a room now, I feel like I'm standing in the past. Your past. I'm trying to build the future, he said. With who? Me or her? Obinna stood. She's a child. She didn't ask for this. I know, Amaka said, and I care about her, but I also have the right to be hurt. Obinna nodded. You do. I gave you everything, Obinna, and now I feel like second place. You're not, he said quickly. You're my wife, my partner, my everything. Then prove it. How? Amaka wiped her face. Don't just fix things with Ziora. Fix us too. Obinna nodded slowly. I will. I promise. Meanwhile, downstairs, Kamsi and Ziora sat on the floor, drawing. Do you think our parents are fighting? Ziora asked. Kamsi looked up. They're just talking. But what if she wants me to go? She doesn't, Kamsi said quickly. She loves you. She doesn't show it. She's just confused, Kamsi said. Mummy needs time. Ziora looked down. Maybe I should leave. No. Kamsi shouted. You're not going anywhere. Ziora blinked. You're my sister now, Kamsi said. You belong here. Ziora smiled softly. That evening, Amaka called Ziora to the kitchen. The girl came in slowly, unsure. Sit, Amaka said. Ziora sat at the table, hands in her lap. Amaka placed a plate of jollof rice and plantain in front of her. I cooked this for you. Ziora looked up, surprised. Really? Yes, Amaka said. I want us to talk. Ziora nodded. I'm sorry if I've been cold, Amaka said. I was shocked, hurt, but that's not your fault. I understand, Ziora said. You don't have to pretend. I'm not pretending, Amaka said. I just needed time. But you're a good girl, and I can see that. You've brought happiness to Kamsi, and even to your father. Ziora wiped a tear. Thank you. Amaka smiled. You deserve love, Ziora. And from now on, I'll try my best to give it. Ziora stood and hugged her. Amaka held her tight. Later that night, Obinna walked into the living room and saw Amaka sitting with the girls. They were playing a board game. He stopped at the door and watched them laugh. Ziora looked up and smiled at him. He smiled back. Amaka smiled too. For the first time in days, the house felt whole again. The dining table had never looked this beautiful before. White tablecloth, golden plates, soft lights above. The whole mansion had been cleaned and decorated like there was a party coming. And there was. Not a birthday. Not a business dinner. This one was different. Obinna stood at the edge of the living room, watching the staff move around quietly, placing dishes on the long table. Grilled chicken, fried rice, moi moi, scented candles. Glasses lined up neatly. Everything looked perfect. But it wasn't for the food. Tonight, it was for family. Real family. Earlier that morning, Obinna had walked into the kitchen and told Amaka, "I want us to have a family dinner tonight. Just the four of us. No guests. No phones. Just us." Amaka raised her brow. "For what?" "I want to say a few things out loud. Not in private. In front of everyone." Amaka paused, then nodded. "Okay, I'll handle it." "Thank you," Obinna said. By 7 p.m., everything was ready. Amaka wore a soft blue gown and had her hair tied up. She looked calm and strong. Kamsi wore her favorite pink dress, skipping into the dining room with excitement. "I'm so hungry." Ziora walked in behind her, wearing a green gown Amaka had picked for her. Her hair had been made into neat cornrows that morning. She looked unsure, like she wasn't used to this kind of attention. Obinna stood as they all sat down. He looked at his wife, then at his daughters. He cleared his throat. "There's something I want to say before we eat." The room went quiet. Obinna turned to Ziora. "I know I've said this before, but tonight I want to say it again. Properly." Ziora looked up slowly. "I'm sorry," Obinna said. "For everything. For the years you lived without me. For the nights you cried alone. For the meals you skipped. For all the pain." Ziora's eyes filled with tears. Obinna turned to Kamsi. "I'm sorry to you too, Kamsi. For keeping a part of your life hidden. For not being the kind of father who tells the full truth." Kamsi nodded slowly. Obinna faced Amaka. His voice shook a little. "And to you, the woman who stood by me even when I didn't deserve it. I owe you everything." Amaka's eyes glistened. "You didn't sign up for this," he said. "But you chose to love through it. I will never forget that." Silence filled the room. Then Obinna stood up, slowly walked over to Ziora, and knelt in front of her. Everyone gasped. Even the staff at the corner paused. Obinna placed his hand on her shoulder. "I wasn't there when you were born. I wasn't there on your first day of school. I wasn't there when your mum died. But I'm here now, and I will never leave again. I promise." Ziora tried to speak, but she couldn't. Obinna reached into his pocket and brought out a small box. Inside was a gold necklace. Not expensive, not flashy, but simple. And on it, a small pendant shaped like a star. He opened it and said, "This belonged to my mother. She gave it to me when I was young. I kept it all these years. I want you to have it now." He gently placed it around her neck. Ziora looked down at it, then back at him. Her lips trembled. "Thank you." Obinna hugged her tightly. Kamsi stood up and joined the hug. Group hug. Everyone laughed through tears. Even Amaka stood and placed her arms around them all. In that moment, the past, the pain, and the silence melted away. After dinner, they all sat on the couch. The mood was light. Kamsi was telling jokes that didn't even make sense, but everyone laughed anyway. Obinna held Amaka's hand. "I've been thinking." "About what?" she asked. "I want to set up a scholarship fund." "For who?" "For girls like Ziora. Girls who lost their way because of people like me." Amaka looked at him with respect. "That's a good idea. I want to name it after Ada." Amaka nodded slowly. "She deserves that." Obinna turned to Ziora. "You'll be the first student." Ziora's eyes widened. Me? Yes. We'll get you into the best school. Whatever dream you have, we'll chase it together. Ziora looked at Kamsi. Kamsi grinned. You're stuck with us now. They all laughed again. That night, Obinna stood alone in the garden. He looked up at the stars. One star shined brighter than the others. He smiled. Ada, he whispered, I found her. I found our child. I will never let her go again. A soft breeze brushed across his face. Like a reply,